Good morning, and I want to thank you all for being here. As you can imagine, last night was a rough night for the San Diego Police Department. I'll first go into what got us to 4860 Rolando Court. So last night, shortly after 10 o'clock at night, San Diego Police Department received a call of a violent disturbance at 4860 Rolando Court. Officers got there, knocked on the door, got no response, but at that time, smelled what they thought was fire or the smell of smoke coming from that apartment. So they requested the fire department. Fire department showed up. Obviously, some concerns about a fire inside the apartment, so the officers made a decision to open the door. Again, before they did that, though, they knocked on the door and asked the occupant to respond. There was no response, so the officers opened the door. Upon opening the door, they were met by gunfire. During that time, during the gunfire, officers returned fire, but two officers were struck by gunfire. Both officers were immediately extracted from the scene and taken to local hospitals, and I'll get to their condition here in a moment. But I really want to thank all the local law enforcement agencies and the fire department for such a quick response of really getting to the scene quickly, getting our officers the care they needed and getting transport to the local hospitals where one officer is in serious but stable condition. He is a 3-year veteran of the San Diego Police Department. And the other officer is an 18-year veteran, is in stable condition at a local hospital. Great news that they're both expected to make a full recovery, so that is phenomenal news. And during the exchange of gunfire, the suspect, not certain that he was hit by our gunfire, that will be determined at a later date, but the suspect was found deceased in his home or in his apartment. He has been identified, but we're not going to release his name at this time until his family can be notified. And at that time, that's what we know right now. Our homicide unit is still waiting to get inside the apartment, waiting on a search warrant to be approved. And so this will be a long process throughout the day. You will see the homicide unit of the San Diego Police Department out of the scene probably the most of the rest of the day, maybe even into the evening. And that's where we sit right now. As we know, our current update is where we know where we're at right now. So
was there a fire inside the home?
We have not gotten inside to determine that. It is believed that he was probably lighting something on fire, but until we get inside and actually can take a complete look at the apartment, we do not fully know that.
Chief, when the call went out, what was the nature of the call? You said a violent disturbance. What did the call say?
The caller stated that they heard cursing, things being thrown about. Person was yelling at what they thought was a female, and it was described as a violent disturbance.
Do we know how many shots were fired?
We do not know. I know many. I know one officer was hit multiple times, and so I know a lot of rounds were shot, but we don't know the total. That will be determined at a later time.
Which officer was shot multiple times? Was it your 3-year?
It's the officer that's in serious condition.
And that would have been
A 3-year veteran, yes.
Did both of your officers discharge the firearm?
Don't know yet. I know 2 of the 3 did return gunfire, but that will be part of the investigation that homicide will determine. As you can imagine, we have not had the chance to interview either of the officers that went to the hospital, so that will be determined later as we go deeper into this investigation.
Can you speak as to firefighters?
I just want to commend them for a phenomenal job. During it, obviously, they're there to help us, possibly with a fire there, and obviously, they're all taken under gunfire. And one of the firefighters was trapped for a little bit. That caused us to make sure that they were able to get out safely, and they were able to do so. But I commend the firefighters for being there and immediately going into the life-saving mode that they did. It's critical that they're there, and I can't say enough for not only fire department, but for all the law enforcement agencies. I mean, you look at this county, a lot of agencies, and I think you saw just about every single agency from around this region at that scene.
I know you're not identifying the suspect just yet, but I have 2 questions. Can you say whether or not the suspect died of a gunshot wound? And number 2, does this person have a history with police or with law enforcement?
I can't tell you for certain that he died from a gunshot wound. Again, we have not been able to get inside, but I can tell you he does have a criminal history, and I can tell you we've responded to this location numerous times over the years, over the last several years. But that will all be determined at a later date as we get farther into this investigation.
Is there any immediate indication when the officers arrived that they would be confronted by any sort of firearms or anything like that? It sounds like the firefighters were right there with them. This was enough to be called an ambush or confrontation?
Don't know. I mean, there was no response. Officers tried to make contact at the door before firefighters got there. And then again, once the fire personnel were on scene, tried again to make contact at the door and got no response.
How did they get inside? Did they open?
Yeah, we breached the door. We were concerned there was a fire.
How are the officers' families?
Obviously it's a tough day. And families are doing well, as you can imagine. It's a tough day. But the families are there. They're being supported by our department members, being supported by our chaplains and their family. So.
Do you know if this person had any sort of mental illness?
That will be part of the investigation that we will look into.
And just to clarify, there were a total of 3 San Diego police officers who arrived. 2 of them were shot.
Yes, that's correct.
Any final words as far as what the police community is going through? Because when you hear those shots fired of an officer down, what's going through your head? How is the community?
Yeah, I mean, if you could imagine, when you hear 1199 come out over a police radio, it's the worst call you can ever get. And, and that's why you saw such a countywide response for this call for help. And I can tell you every single chief and every single officer behind me and myself, when you get that call, your stomach just sinks and you're just hoping that nobody dies. And, I'm blessed, that none of our officers died. I mean, we have one that's very seriously injured, but looks like he'll make a full recovery. So I'm very, very thankful for that.
Was there anyone else inside of this complex?
It's a large complex. So, yeah, there was obviously apartments on either side and all around. Yeah, we had to do quite a few evacuations.
So no one inside that unit?
No, not that I know of. Nobody else inside the unit.
It was heard on the police radio that the suspect was wearing body armor, and last night you weren't able to confirm that. Has it been confirmed yet?
I can confirm he was wearing body armor. I can.
And after the officers cleared the apartment, we're hearing that their next step immediately after that was to check the other apartments because of the bullet holes through the walls, and there was a concern to make sure no one else was hit by the rounds.
Yeah, and nobody was. That's one of the things that we immediately do, and nobody was found. So
So the officer's vest saved his life so far.
don't know that yet. I really don't know that. So.
Was he wearing the vest?
Our officers? Yes.
One last question.
And right now at the scene, obviously it's still a very active scene. You all are waiting for the search warrant.
Yeah, I'll let Captain Mike Hastings from Homicide can respond to that
So we have
question.
an idea of
Absolutely.
how to
Thanks, Mike.
Sure. Good morning. I'm Mike Hastings. I'm the captain with San Diego Police Department's Homicide Unit. Right now, we currently have 2 homicide teams that are on scene. They're doing everything from interviewing witnesses, and we have one team that is focused on the crime scene itself. To be able to process that crime scene, we have to obtain a search warrant that a judge must grant prior to us making entry into there, doing searches, and processing the scene. That is really our key to get going with our work, to get a criminalist in there to look at trajectory, to answer an awful lot of questions that we'd like to have answered, as you would this morning. I would suspect that we would have the search warrant in hand within the next hour or so, and I would suspect that it will be out there at least the next 8 to 10 hours processing that scene, if not longer. We could be going into the nighttime hours. These scenes, particularly with a lot of rounds fired, seem to take a little bit longer so that we can answer those questions.
Has the suspect's body been taken by the medical examiner?
Not yet, no.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Real quick.
Like Captain said and Chief said, that the investigation is still currently ongoing. Anybody who has any information regarding this case can please contact Crime Stoppers at 888-580-8477. Thank you.